The bus rolled through the iron gates just after sunrise, its tires crunching over gravel that had been ground into dust by decades of boots. The training compound stretched wide and unforgiving, framed by low concrete buildings, obstacle courses tangled with rope and steel, and an open field scarred with old footprints and newer mistakes. It wasn't a place meant to welcome anyone. It was designed to strip people down. The recruits sat stiffly, some staring straight ahead, others pretending confidence they didn't feel. Nervous jokes floated through the air, thin and brittle. Most of them had trained for this moment for years. Some had family legacies behind them. Others were chasing redemption, escape, or something they couldn't name. And then there was her. She stepped off the bus last, duffel bag slung over one shoulder, posture relaxed but alert. Her name tag read Lena Carter. She was smaller than most of the others, lean rather than bulky, her movements quiet and efficient. She didn't look scared. She didn't look cocky either. She just looked ready. That was the first thing that annoyed them. A few heads turned. A few smirks appeared. One of the men nudged another and muttered something under his breath. Lena heard it anyway. "New girls lost," someone whispered. "This ain't yoga camp." She ignored it and took her place in formation as the drill instructor barked orders. Her eyes stayed forward. Her breathing stayed steady. The first hour was paperwork and orientation, but the real test began fast. They were led straight to the field, where the sun was already climbing, heat pressing down like a hand on the back of the neck. "Welcome to training," the instructor shouted. "From this moment on, comfort is a memory. If you're looking for fairness, you won't find it here. If you're looking for mercy, you should have stayed home." Push-ups began without warning, then sit-ups, then sprints. The bullies revealed themselves early. There was always a group that fed on weakness, or what they thought was weakness. 3 men in particular kept glancing at Lena, whispering, laughing when she struggled through the same drills as everyone else. She didn't struggle more than the others, but she didn't show off either. When one of them deliberately shoulder-checked her during a water break, she stumbled half a step, then caught herself. She didn't react. That made them laugh louder. "Careful, princess," one of them said. "Don't want to break a nail." Another added, "She won't last a week." Lena said nothing. She took a sip of water, capped the bottle, and stepped back in a line. What they didn't know, what none of them could see, was that this wasn't her first brutal training ground. When she was 8 years old, she'd learned how to swim underwater before she learned long division. When she was 10, she could dismantle and reassemble equipment blindfolded. When she was 12, she ran miles before dawn, sand biting at her ankles, a quiet voice beside her correcting her form. That voice belonged to her father. He never wore his rank at home, never talked about missions. But the discipline lived in him like muscle memory. He believed in preparation, in calm under pressure, in never underestimating anyone, including your own limits. "People will judge what they can see," he used to tell her. "Your job is to make sure what they can't see is stronger." By midday, sweat soaked through uniforms. The obstacle course loomed next, a tangled mess of walls, ropes, mud pits, and steel bars. "This is where we separate talkers from doers," the instructor said. The bullies volunteered to go first, eager to show off. They powered through with loud grunts and exaggerated effort, cheering each other on, soaking up attention. When Lena's turn came, a few snickers rippled through the group. "She's gonna drown in the mud pit," someone said. She didn't. She moved with economy. No wasted energy. No panique. Her grip on the rope was secure but relaxed. She didn't race, she flowed. When she reached the wall, she didn't hesitate. One step, a controlled jump, fingers finding purchase, a smooth pull. The instructor's eyes narrowed. She wasn't the fastest, but she was consistent, clean, efficient. That bothered the bullies even more. During lunch, they surrounded her table, standing instead of sitting. "So what made you sign up?" one asked, smirk sharp. "Trying to prove something?" Lena looked up calmly. "I'm here to train." "That's it," another laughed. "No big story." She shrugged. "Training is enough." They walked away shaking their heads, laughing like they'd won something. That afternoon, sparring drills began. Pairs were assigned randomly. Lena was paired with one of them. The man grinned as he tightened his gloves. "Don't worry," he said loudly. "I'll go easy." The whistle blew. He came at her fast, aggressive, overconfident. She stepped aside, redirected his momentum, and planted him flat on his back in less than 3 seconds. The field went quiet. She offered a hand to help him up. He slapped it away, face burning. From that moment on, the mocking changed tone. It wasn't just laughter anymore. It was resentment. That night, in the barracks, whispers followed her. She got lucky. Beginner's fluke. She won't handle the real stuff. Lena lay on her bunk, staring at the ceiling, listening. She didn't mind. She'd heard worse. She rolled on her side and closed her eyes, breathing slow, steady, just like she'd been taught. The real test hadn't even started yet, and somewhere deep inside, she knew it. The next morning started earlier than expected. Sirens screamed through the compound at 3:47 a.m., ripping everyone out of sleep. Boots hit the floor, confusion turning to urgency as lights flickered on. Outside. Now, the instructors roared. Lena was already moving by the time the others were scrambling into formation. She stood ready, breathing controlled, eyes alert. The bullies noticed. They always noticed. The instructors wasted no time. They sent the recruits straight into a forced march, heavy packs biting into shoulders, the night air cold enough to sting lungs with every breath. This time, the mocking didn't last long. The pace was relentless. One by one, the loudest voices faded. Sweat froze on skin. Steps slowed. Complaints turned into silence. Lena stayed steady. Her stride never broke rhythm. Her shoulders stayed relaxed. When someone stumbled ahead of her, she adjusted her pace without losing momentum. Point one, the bullies faltered, knees buckling under the weight. The instructor barked at him to move. Without thinking, Lena reached out and shifted his pack slightly, redistributing the weight as they walked. He shot her an angry look. "I don't need help." She didn't answer. She just kept walking. By sunrise, several recruits were on the verge of collapse. The instructors gathered them near the water course, a wide, cold stretch designed to break confidence. "Pair up," one ordered. The bullies tried to avoid Lena. They failed. The water shock hit like knives. Breath left bodies in sharp gasps. Panic rippled through the group. Lena submerged calmly, controlling her breathing, guiding her partner with short, clear signals. When he started to flail, she anchored him, steady and firm, just like she'd been taught years ago. They surfaced together. The instructors exchanged glances. Later that day, during a brief rest window, one of the bullies finally snapped. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Seriously, you don't train like anyone else." Lena wiped sweat from her brow. "I train like myself." That's not an answer. She met his eyes. For the first time, there was no softness there. Just truth. "My father trained me." They laughed. "Your dad?" "What? He played tough guy in the backyard." She didn't smile. "He trained people who never came home," she said quietly. The laughter died. The final evaluation came without warning. A simulated rescue under pressure. Low visibility. Time limits. Team coordination. Chaos. Orders overlapped. People froze. The bullies panicked, shouting over each other. Lena took command without raising her voice. "Move left. Slow your breathing. Follow my count." They did. Not because she outshrank them, because she sounded like someone who knew exactly what she was doing. They completed the exercise with seconds to spare. When it was over, the instructor stepped forward. "Carter," he said, "where did you learn this level of discipline?" Lena hesitated, then answered honestly. "My father trained special operations. He believed skill meant nothing without control." The instructor nodded once. The bullies didn't say anything. They didn't need to. From that day on, the mocking stopped. Respect replaced it. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Weeks later, as training continued, Lena never brought it up again. She didn't need it, as she'd proven what mattered. Not with words, but with calm under pressure, strength without arrogance, and skills forged long before anyone was watching. And that's the truth the bullies learned too late. You never know who someone is by how new they look. You only find out when it counts. The respect Lena earned didn't come with applause. It came quietly, in small changes. No more shoulder checks in the hallway. No more laughter when her name was called. Even the instructors began watching her differently. Not favoring her, not protecting her, just observing with sharper eyes. But training wasn't finished testing her point. 3 days later came endurance week. Sleep was cut to minutes. Meals were rushed. Bodies ran on fumes. The goal wasn't strength anymore. It was decision-making when everything hurt. That's when cracks really showed. Point one of the loudest bullies, the same one who had mocked her on the first day, started unraveling. His temper flared. He snapped at teammates, missed signals, made careless mistakes during a night navigation drill. His mistake nearly cost them the exercise. He misread a marker and led half the team in a thick brush, losing precious time. The instructors watched silently. Panic crept in. Voices rose. Lena didn't raise hers. She stepped beside him, flashlight angled low. "Stop," she said calmly. "Breathe. Check your bearing again." He shook his head. "I know where I'm going." "You did," she replied. "Not now." Something in her tone cut through the noise. He looked at the compass again. His face drained. They corrected course. Later, as they waited in the dark for extraction, he finally spoke. "I thought you were just lucky," he said quietly. She didn't answer right away. "My dad used to say luck runs out," she said eventually. "Preparation doesn't." The man nodded, shame heavy in his posture. The final physical test arrived at dawn, an obstacle course combined with live problem solving. Timers running. Instructors shouting conflicting commands. Simulated injuries thrown in without warning. Midway through, one recruit went down hard, ankle twisted, pain obvious. The bullies hesitated. Helping him meant losing time. Losing time meant failure. Lena didn't hesitate. She stabilized the ankle, redistributed gear, and organized the carry in seconds. Clear instructions. No drama. They finished late. The instructors stepped forward. "Why didn't you leave him?" one asked bluntly. Lena stood at attention. "Because the mission isn't the clock. It's the people." Silence followed. Then a slow nod. Graduation day came sooner than anyone expected. Uniforms clean. Faces leaner. Eyes sharper. Names were called. Lena stood with the rest, expression steady. After the ceremony, one of the bullies approached her, the first one who had mocked her stepping off the bus. "I was wrong," he said. "No excuses. No jokes. About everything." She offered a small smile. "We all start somewhere." As they walked away, an instructor stopped her. "Your father," he said. "He trained you well." She met his gaze. "He taught me more than skills. He taught me restraint." That night, Lena stood alone near the edge of the compound. Phone pressed to her ear. "It's done," she said softly at a pause. Then a voice on the other end. Older, calm, proud. "I knew you'd be fine." She looked out over the field where she'd been underestimated, tested, and finally understood. "Thanks for training me," she said, another pause. "I just reminded you who you already were," her father replied. She hung up, shoulders squared, ready for whatever came next. Because bullies only see the surface, and the strongest training happens long before anyone is watching.